In this video, I'm going to share with you how to own your story, and what most people are striving for is absolutely the worst thing you could possibly do. How to find your value as it relates to your story, especially for coaches and trainers and speakers. We hear this phrase, own your story, a lot. And it's one of those things where it's a very cool affirmation. It's a very cool meme. It's a really neat intellectual charge, right? And for a lot of people, I don't want to be, I guess I do want to be blunt. For a lot of people, it's useless, only in the sense that they can't use it, right? I don't want to be like demeaning, because it's not demeaning, because it's actually true. And for a lot of people, they can't, like, it doesn't actually happen, right? Like, we understand what to do, but can't actually do it. And so what we want to talk about in this video is how to actually do it, how to actually own your story and become more magnetic as a result, become more attractive from a business sense, and have more people hire you as a coach, have more people want to follow you, have more people want to lean in and learn from you. So that's what we want to dive into today with actual how-to information. Most of us are trying to void the past in some way. Most of us are trying to pretend things didn't happen, or we're not telling anybody about it. We're not embracing it. We don't want to tell ourselves about it sometimes. Bottom line is, we don't want to tell the truth because we think the truth is not valuable. And we think if people know that we're imperfect, or people know that we struggle, or people know that we're vulnerable or whatever, then they won't like us anymore. They won't hire us. They won't follow us. They'll leave us. They'll desert us. And for most of us, that's a deep-seated belief. And we're taught at a very early age, most of us, that if they find out the truth, whoever they is, right? If they find out the truth, they won't like you. And that happens in many ways. Like, we show up and we say something real or vulnerable, or we speak our mind or whatever, and we get punished for it. And so we learn that if we're real, if we're open, if we're truthful, we'll get punished on some level, right? People won't like us. We'll get in trouble, something like that. We'll face some kinds of consequences. And so that programming is very real for a lot of us. And if this is landing for you, if you can recognize that in your belief system, you learned somewhere along the line, somewhere along the way, that if you're real, there are consequences, right? If you are real, they will leave you. If you are real, they won't like you, right? And certainly that's part of my story. And so we are programmed that way early on, and then that programming gets stacked on top of each other, just throughout, like, our whole childhood, really, and adulthood. And the messages in the media is that if you're not perfect, they won't like you. You won't be valued. You won't be celebrated. You know, I mean, think about what celebrity is, right? We celebrate people that are uncommonly wealthy, uncommonly gorgeous, uncommonly skilled, like they do something uncommon. So common abilities, common traits don't get celebrated. And so then we learn that if we're not uncommon, then we won't have that prestige. We won't have that celebration. We won't have what it is that we all want, right? So it's a very common programming for most of us. And that's one of the reasons why we don't like to share our truth, because we learned that our truth is either dangerous or it's not valuable. And when it comes to building a business based on who we really are, then we bump up against that programming, you know, because we hear that you want to be distinct, you want to be unique, you want to find that thing that really makes you stand out from the crowd. But at the same time, our embodied programming is that standing out from the crowd is dangerous, right? And you think about it, that's why we get bullied. That's why we get targeted, right? Early on. That's what separates us from the crowd. So what separates us, right? Like what separates us from other people is the thing that we'll be separated by other people for. And none of us wants to be separated. We all want to be connected. And so that's the programming that most of us are dealing with. And that's why a lot of us are afraid of standing out from the crowd, right? Before I move on to the how-tos specifically from a messaging standpoint, what do you want to add to any of that?
I mean, it's just real, especially if we're trying to build a business, right? Where we're the product, or something that we offer is the product. And yet we're trying to do that by being someone different than we actually are, or believing that we have to hide who we actually are in order to be able to be successful. I mean, it's no wonder so many people are frustrated, and a lot of people end up quitting because they just don't think that. And I'll speak for myself. I believed that success was possible for other people. Right. I just didn't think it was possible for me. And this piece that you're speaking about is a huge part of that.
Yeah, the for me part, I think, is really critical. And it's one of the reasons why a lot of people really struggle, because like in a coaching sense, I mean, you know, we've been trying to figure this out for a long, long time. And I think we've done a pretty good job of identifying what causes most people to struggle who want to be coaches. It's because the for me questions don't ever get answered, right? Like there are recipes that work for other people, but what about for me? What about my product? What about my situation? What about me having 5 kids and I don't have the time that somebody else has, right? What about me? And it's that personalized attention that I think a lot of us are afraid of, probably because of what we've been saying, right? If anybody puts you under the microscope, they're going to find something that they won't like about you, and then they'll leave you, or they won't follow you, or whatever.
But also craving, right? Like afraid
but
of
also craving. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Who's doing the craving?
We, like us, like the personal attention that we're afraid of.
That we're craving. Yeah. Yeah, we're craving and terrified of at the same time, right? Which is really common, actually. People are craving connection and terrified of connection in a relationship sense, because that's how you get hurt, right? And so we're craving distinction and terrified of it at the same time, because that's how you get hurt. That's how you get targeted. That's how people judge you. And most people who don't succeed in this coaching world specifically, or anything similar to it, where you are the product, as you said, it's because they never solve that conflict. The conflict of the thing that I'm craving and the thing that actually will be most valuable for me is the thing that I'm afraid of. Right. And so owning your story actually has the same punchline as that quote that we just said. Owning your story is really finding the value in it. It's not hiding your imperfections. It's finding the value in them. It's not hiding your mistakes. It's shining a light on them and telling people what you've learned from them, that you can help them with. Because here's what perfection does. It lets people know you're not like them. That's really the only thing that perfectionism does, right? Is let people know we're not like each other, because I'm perfect and you're not. Right. Because nobody's going around going, who can I find that's perfect just like me? Right. People are going around saying, is it possible for me to succeed with all of my imperfections? Yes. Is it possible for me to be happy? And so when we show up and go, look at me, I can succeed with all of my perfections, or with my perfection, then I'm not giving anybody a story that they can resonate with or they can relate to. But when we say, look at what I've learned from my imperfections that can help you in your journey too, that's what creates value. It's what creates value for them. And if you want people to follow you nowadays, and if you want people to hire you nowadays, it's not about impressing them. Nobody's going to hire you because they're impressed by you. They're going to hire you because they trust you, that you will be valuable for them. Right. So you can impress me by all the things that you've done, but if I want somebody to help me progress in my journey, then that's really all I care about. And truthfully, if you are a train wreck, but your train wreck will allow me to avoid mine, I'm way more likely to hire your train wreck so that I can avoid mine, which is ultimately all I care about, than for you to sell me on how perfect your train is. And then I think, yeah, but you can't help an ugly caboose like me, right? Because ultimately, we've heard this so many times. It's what's in it for me. What can you do that will help me? And it doesn't matter what's in there. It doesn't matter what form that takes. Ultimately, I want to know how your journey can help me. And what I've learned, I know what you've learned, and I think what pretty much all of you who are still listening to this know is that your imperfections, your humanity, your bumps and bruises and scrapes give you more value to me. Yeah. And that's what I'm going to spend my money on. Yeah. So how do you actually own your story? Not by hiding it, not by avoiding it. How do you make your story valuable to me? Tell me what you learned, and then tell me how what you learned will help me. That's it. You don't have to have been on Oprah. You don't have to have 1 million views. In fact, that might actually cause me to distrust you more and separate you from me more. So the very thing that so many people are afraid of is the thing that will make them most valuable. And before I turn it over to you to share whatever part of your story you want, the reason that a lot of us don't want to share the thing that we're afraid of sharing is because we think people won't like us if they knew the real truth. In reality, if they knew the real truth, they won't not like us. I think I threw too many knots in there. They won't not like us. They'll probably fall in love with us. Yeah. It's the thing that you're afraid of being dismissed for. That's probably what you'll be hired for.
That was good.
That was pretty good, huh?
That was really good. High five. How do you?
Yeah. So what do you want to add to that?
Good. That was so good. The thing that you're afraid that you'll be dismissed for is the thing that you'll be hired for. I think it's so interesting because even at the height of my commitment to perfection, to flawless, to polished, to perfect, even at like my most, like just the height of that part of my journey, I wasn't attracted to anybody else that portrayed that type of image.
That's interesting.
Right? I'll
Is that because you know it was false?
Fake and exhausting.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, possibly.
That's a really good point. Like you knew what you were putting it on to protect from or to hide. So you figured that anybody else that has the same costume is probably hiding the same thing or a version of it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good thought.
Yeah, I didn't trust me as me. So if I saw anybody that looked like me, right, why would I trust them either? Like I was drawn to people that were just real and silly and themselves, right? Just who they were. And I actually was kind of, just real talk, kind of resentful of those people because I thought, well, it must just be nice to get to be who you are.
I hope if anybody's just listening to the audio, you have to watch the video of what Michelle's face just tapped into. That was some realness right there.
Yeah. It wasn't fair. Like they just got to be who they were and everybody loved them. And I had to work so hard to be who I wasn't. so that people would like me.
I had to work so hard to be who I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
I was laughing hysterically a second ago. Now I'm crying. Yeah. Yeah. That's just what I believed, right? That there was no way that if people found out that this was who I was, that they would stay around. And I thought, you know, again, like it must just be nice for those people.
Yeah. That's deep. I had to work so hard to be who I wasn't to get people to like me. It's just so exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
It's so exhausting to be fake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it doesn't work. So,
right.
Like, why would we do the thing that's harder and doesn't work?
Yeah.
Why do we think? Go ahead. You're probably going to answer the question.
Yeah, because I truly believed that that's what was required to be loved and to be accepted and to be valued. It just didn't, just with whatever programming and upbringing that I had, I just truly believed that who I really was not acceptable. That's it, was not acceptable. And so if I wanted to be accepted and not be abandoned and fit in and be loved and be connected to other people, that I needed to fix this, right? I needed to dress it up. I needed to put it in pantyhose, put it in high heels, put some makeup on, put some lipstick on, put a smile on my face and go about my business, because nobody needs to see all of that. You're embarrassing me.
Yeah.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And now what's true for you?
Michelle Unplugged 24/7. I have to rein this back in sometimes. I'm like, you are dripping on people everywhere. Yeah. I shared one of our, I am, right? You know that. You get in my vicinity and you're just I'm going to get on you. Yeah, I shared this on one of our YouTube videos that I just had. We did an exercise at one of our live events years ago. And I did this visualization where I was at my funeral. And here was the thing, you guys, there were so many people that were there at my funeral. It was so beautiful. And I looked beautiful in the coffin. It was such a really like a beautiful event. And everybody was so appropriately sad. People were so grieving by the fact that I had died. And it was just this like, you know, the kind of funeral that I had thought, like, if I die, I want people to feel this way about me. And I remember looking in the coffin and not one person there knew who I was. Not one person. They were so sad for the death of a woman who never lived. What am I doing? Like, that was a huge moment for me of just like, what the hell? Like, what are you doing? This is crazy. Is this what it's about? Having a lot of people sad at your funeral, or you want to live your life? And so that was a start for me of just opening up, you know, to giving myself permission to be who I was, really. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't just like a switch, but that started the journey. And now, yeah. I look at pictures. We were just looking at pictures actually before we went live. And I'll tell you, if I showed you a picture of me from, 2012, 13, 14, you would probably think I was very pretty and very polished and very put together. But underneath the surface, I mean, I was like, truly my soul was literally clawing at my skin to escape. Yeah. So I look completely different now, and I live completely different now. I stopped trying to manipulate my story, and I just surrendered into what it actually was and who I was. And I started letting people know like the real me and letting them see me. And I found myself, people being magnetized to me where they used to be scared and repelled of the toughness and the edge that I had to protect myself underneath all the polish. Yeah.
That's a real interesting thing to dive into. I know you know the story about the work that I did with equine therapy with a horse, and how horses just really tap into our energy, and to give the 60-second version of that story that's relevant to what you just said. There was a person in our group who had some extreme PTSD, and the horse was terrified of him. And what we learned later is the horse could tap into his fear. And the horse thought, if I'm afraid of you and you're afraid of something, then I'm hell of afraid of whatever you're afraid of. Right? Like if you need to protect against something, then I'm extra scared.
Right.
And that protective kind of energy is absolutely repelling, certainly not inviting. It's not inviting to people that just want to be real. And even more than that, it smells dangerous. Like there's danger. I mean, we all protect because something's dangerous, right? So why would there be protection unless there's the existence of danger? And so if I'm getting a sense of protection from you, especially if I protect against my danger, well, then that means you must be protecting against your danger. And so why would I throw my danger into your danger? And I know what you experienced specifically, Michelle, is that once you let that go, and I know a big part of that was you actually writing and then sharing your vulnerable, true story. And then didn't you have like 2 or 3 people just reach out to you, like immediately, people that you didn't reach out to or hadn't talked to in a long time, and they just, it's like the lighthouse went on, and people just actually started to approach you rather than run from you.
Yeah, I got 4 new clients in a couple of weeks. And I didn't do anything different that they would have seen.
Right. Yeah, it was just an energetic shift where you were safe. You know, you became safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, dang. That's huge. Like that's almost beyond I'm going to say beyond comprehension huge. And the reason I just took the word almost out of it, because when we're on the other side, like when you were on the previous side, you couldn't comprehend it. Would you agree with that? Like you just, right. You couldn't comprehend it. And so one of the things that makes this challenging for a lot of people is the path out of the fire can't be seen from inside the fire. It just can't, you know, and in that statement, the fire is the danger. The fire is the limiting beliefs. It's the negative relationship to yourself or to the distinction, right? To whatever it is that actually makes you the most valuable inside of the fire of protection. You can't see the escape, nor can you really understand the value of the rescuers, right? Like you can't really understand the value of whoever's there trying to support you, whether it comes in the form of a big water hose or whether it comes in the form of provocation or truth or whatever it is. Like we literally, and I'm talking about biologically, we biologically can't see what it's like on the other side of our opaque protection mechanisms.
Yeah. Yeah. And we can't understand it because it's not intellectual. So it's not something that you will understand. It really truly is. And this is part of, you know, stepping into a breakthrough. It really is surrender. It's like active surrender, but it really is and I, you know, when I do share my story in its entirety, my moments of surrender have actually never, I don't think ever been like, yay, let's do it. It's been like, I won't cuss here on the channel more than I already did, but it's just like, F it. Whatever. Like, it's not this beautiful experience. It's just the recognition that what I've been doing for so long is just not working. So screw it. Let me just let it go and see what happens. Can't be worse than what I'm experiencing right now. And then there's light on the other side. That's amazing.
There's unfathomable light, life, opportunity, freedom, lightness, you know, because so many of us have this feeling like we just lost a lot of energetic weight when we go through these phases of our transformations. And notice there was a plural in there. You know, people wish there was just a single transformation. There's no line to cross, but there are stages, right? It's like a big staircase. But we can't highlight this enough, that we literally cannot see the road out. We can't see the path, nor can we value the path generally until, well, still we can't see or value the path, but what causes a lot of people to surrender into it, whatever the it is, that unknown, is what you just said, like, can't get much worse than this. Right. And when you know your recipe isn't working, any new ingredient is better than sticking to the current recipe that's not working. And so sometimes it's like, I don't know if that ingredient is going to work, but I know this recipe has to change.
Right.
So anything new is good.
Yeah.
If what's working, or if what you're following isn't working. Right. So if the recipe you're currently following isn't working, anything new is progress.
Yes.
And we're so afraid of following something that might be wrong because we don't know if it's going to be the right path, or we don't know if it's going to be the right target. I think what we need to understand is anything off of this spot is the right direction.
Yes.
We don't want to leave this spot until we know that we found the right direction in a 360-degree view. No. Anything off of here is the right direction. Get in motion and figure it out in motion.
Yeah. But then we can turn around and then we can cheer and advocate and paint that picture for the people, right, that are waiting for us.
That's the key. And so how to do that for each of us, we're all on an individual journey, right? Like there is no one size fits all about how to find your unique value. If you've been through certain situations, if you've been through abuse, or if you've been through a lot of traumatic experiences in your childhood, or you grew up like super wealthy or super crazy pretty and you didn't feel seen for who you are, or whatever the case is, there is no like formula, right? There's no 4-step formula or 9-step formula that will give you that value, because we're all on an individual journey. But the answer is to find that value for yourself so that you value you.
Yes.
I mean, how many times do we give some version of the blunt truth to somebody that, listen, you're trying to sell something you haven't bought. That ain't easy.
It's impossible.
Yeah. Right. And even if you do find a way to fake somebody into buying something that you haven't bought, it's coming down. That's a house of cards that will come down. And so step number 1 is to buy in. Buy in. Exactly. Buy in. And then other people will eventually. Like one of the things that people get stuck on is the if question. I wonder if I'm valuable. I wonder if people will hire me.
Oh my gosh.
There are no if questions. If you're a human who's learned lessons, you have value. There's no if question. The only question is, will you do what it takes to find them? And if you've learned lessons in your life, somebody right now is not only searching for them, they're ready to pay for them. The only question is, are you on the menu? Will they find you? Are you doing what it takes to run toward them? Right? Are you going after them with your value, with your lessons, versus I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to do everything I can to cut corners to make sure that I don't have to put out too much energy, too much money, too much time, whatever. And then as soon as people will pay me, as soon as people will pre-approve of me, then I'll come out of my shell, right? That's not the game. The game is unconditional commitment to the value that you have and spreading the word like your life depends on it. And not so much like your life depends on it as much as their life does. Like, would you get up if somebody else's life depended on you getting up? Most of us would answer that question absolutely 100%. But many of us wouldn't if it was only our life that depended on it. So there is a way for all of us. There is a value for all of us. What it looks like could be different. There's a version of transformation for all of us. What I can guarantee you is it will not match your expectations, nor your intellect's desires. Congratulations. If your transformational expectations haven't been met, then you're doing it right. If they are ever met, you're not doing it right. I just don't think there's any such thing as a transformation that follows expectations.
No, because those come from the intellect, and that's not where transformation happens. You can't see it. Yeah.
No such thing as comfortable transformation. Impossible. So for any of you who are digging this conversation and you're not already aware of our certification programs, and if you're interested in becoming a coach or just doing this work in whatever capacity you want to do this work, this is what we teach. It's the inner journey. It's the process of not just experiencing a transformation personally, but facilitating transformations for other people as well. And what we've learned is that for people that are committed to transforming others, your life will be transformed in that process because you're in the middle of that, right? You're in the middle of between where you are and transforming other people. That's where your transformation lives. And that commitment is what causes people to actually be convicted here, right? It's the service-based conviction. And then your life changes as a byproduct. Imagine that. Your personal transformation is a byproduct of learning the skills to transform others because it's part of the recipe, right? So for any of you that don't know about any of our programs, we'll put a link here on the video and in the comments. We've got two. We've got one that's all online. It's called BCC, Breakthrough Coaching Certification, and it's all self-paced. And it's got a pretty active live community on Facebook, so you don't go through it all by yourself. We're answering questions in there all the time and sharing and supporting and celebrating and all of that. So it's a really powerful community. And then for any of you that are already in BCC, or you just know that you want to deep dive and learn the scuba diving skills, right, of massive transformation, we have a 5-day certification program. So if any of you are interested in that, you can go to coachseansmith.com/ECCP-online. And if you have any questions about any of it, let us know. We are an easy company to find. I'm easy to find. I'm Coach Sean Smith everywhere. If you prefer other platforms, whatever your favorite platform is, that's probably my handle there. The website, as you can see on the screen, you can go there. And if there's a message that I could leave you with, it's that whatever you're wanting in terms of human experience on this planet is possible. Healing is possible. Transformation is possible. Success is possible. Abundance is possible. Financial wealth is possible. It's all possible. It has a recipe that most people will not follow. So it's all possible, but most people are just simply not willing to follow the recipe. If you are, we can support you.
Yeah.
Anything you want to leave them with?
Yeah. You don't have to grind so hard for your worthiness. Come hang out with us. This is a moment, an opportunity to choose. They need you. So say yes, not for you, but for them.
Say yes for them. Beautiful. Thank you, Michelle, for jumping on and sharing your story, and for owning your story, and for all the people who needed you to stand on top of your story so that you can help them. And I know you've heard a lot of thank yous from a lot of people that said their life is not the same at all, that they love themselves, that they've stopped drinking in excess or doing drugs or pounding their head figuratively or literally, or scratching at their skin, or all the things that they needed your leadership to step into. Yeah, you've started a really powerful ripple by doing exactly what we've been talking about.
Thanks for going first. It's your story that brought me in. So
beautiful. We're all just hot messes. We just learned some lessons. We'll stand on top of our hot ass mess and share the lessons. Now, if you like this video, check out that video where I break down the 5 criteria I suggest you look for when choosing your coaching certifications. It doesn't matter how shiny and seductive the package is. If it's not practical for you, what's the point? So really check into it with some scrutiny. Look under the hood a little bit and see if it's going to equip you with